I keep feeling this theme of observation. Like there's someone who has stepped into a new version of themselves, and they've done it in full view. Nothing hidden. Nothing quiet about it. They're choosing experiences that are rich, that look good, that feel elevated. And the people around them are watching. You might be watching. And there's a question underneath all of that watching, something like, when did they change? And why does it feel like it has something to do with me? Because sometimes the transformation someone else is going through holds a mirror up to you. Not in a cruel way. Just in a quiet, uncomfortable, honest way. There's a karmic thread woven through this reading. And I want to be careful with how I explain this, because it's easy to hear the word karma and immediately think of punishment or reward. But what's showing up here is more nuanced than that. It feels more like, what goes around really is coming around. But not in the way you might be expecting. It's not dramatic. It's not a cosmic event. It looks more like a very natural consequence unfolding in real time. The energy that someone sent out, whether it was love, or coldness, or ambition, or maybe a little bit of dismissal, is now returning to them in a form they might not have predicted. And this is where the story gets layered. Because there's a person in this reading who has been sitting back. Watching quietly. Not making a lot of noise, not demanding attention, just observing. And over time, this person has developed an incredibly clear sense of what's real and what's performance. They've learned to read between the lines. To notice the things that don't get said. The feelings that live just beneath the surface of words. This kind of quiet attention, it's a superpower, honestly. But it can also be lonely. Because when you see clearly, sometimes you see things you wish you hadn't. Have you ever known something before you had evidence for it? Just felt the shift in energy before anything had technically changed? Some of you watching this are that person. You felt something was off before anyone would have believed you. And now things are playing out in ways that are confirming what you already knew on a level that was hard to explain out loud. You're not imagining this energy. You weren't imagining it then, either. What's interesting is that the very visible behavior, the living out loud, the bold choices, the elevated lifestyle being put on display, a part of this feels almost like a statement. Like something being said without words. And I keep sitting with the question of who it's being said to. Because sometimes when we suddenly start living loudly, when we start choosing luxury and comfort and visibility, it's not just about enjoying those things. Sometimes it's about being seen enjoying them. There's a difference. And that difference matters. This feels, at least in part, like a response. To something. To someone. Maybe to a feeling of having been overlooked. Maybe to a feeling of having been underestimated. There's something about this behavior that says, look at me now. And that's deeply human. It's not wrong. It's just honest. But here's where I want to gently go a little deeper, because I think this is where the real transformation lies. There's a star energy in this reading. And I don't mean star in the celebrity sense, though the visibility theme is certainly present. I mean something more fundamental, a resilience that has been forged through difficulty. Someone who has faced something genuinely hard, maybe more than once, and who has found a way not just to survive it, but to alchemize it. To turn the experience of struggle into something that makes them shine. And you can see it. Whatever they've been through, it didn't break them. It made them more. And maybe that's part of what's so arresting about watching them move through the world right now. There's something undeniable about a person who has come through fire and decided to walk forward anyway. At first this looked like simple confidence. But looking deeper, it feels more like a quiet victory that most people around them don't fully understand. They don't know the whole story. They only see the current chapter. The energy changes a little here. Because there's also something about envy woven through this reading, and I want to name it without shame, because envy is one of those emotions that we tend to be very uncomfortable admitting. It's easier to call it something else. Judgment, maybe. Or concern. Or just saying someone is being extra. But underneath the social commentary, underneath the raised eyebrows and the observations about how someone is living, sometimes what's actually happening is much more personal. Sometimes watching someone else move into something beautiful or abundant or free triggers a very quiet, very painful awareness of what we feel we don't have. Or what we gave up. Or what we wanted but told ourselves wasn't possible. Does this feel familiar? Some of you watching this right now are sitting with a feeling that you've maybe been calling something neutral, but it's actually something that stings a little. And that's okay. That sting is information. It's pointing at something inside you that wants to be addressed. Envy, when you're honest with it, when you don't dress it up as judgment or projection, becomes something really valuable. Because it shows you where your desire lives. It shows you what you actually want. The person or situation that's making people stare. They might be reflecting something back at you. Not because the universe is being cruel. But because you're ready to look. I'm hearing something like, this is supposed to be uncomfortable. And I feel that so strongly right now. Whatever you're watching in someone else's life that's making you feel something uneasy, something restless, something even a little painful, it's not random. This is a mirror moment. And the question isn't really about them. It's about what their reflection is waking up in you. Now, there's a path energy here. And it feels chosen. Deeply, deliberately chosen. Like someone who has reached a crossroads and decided, maybe quietly, maybe with some grief, maybe with some relief, to walk in a different direction than they were expected to. And this choice, this path, is what's driving so much of the visible behavior. The new experiences. The elevated choices. The boldness. It all flows from a decision that was made internally before it ever became visible externally. And for some of you, you might be trying to figure out when that decision was made. You might be replaying things in your mind, looking for the moment it shifted. Was it something that happened? Something that was said? Something that wasn't said? There's that quality of looking back, trying to trace the exact point of departure. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the most honest answer is that the shift happened gradually, and then all at once. Like something had been building beneath the surface long before it broke through. That pattern, the slow internal transformation that looks sudden from the outside, is very present in this energy. This is interesting because it raises a question about how much of the living out loud that's happening right now is actually about the audience at all. Part of me feels like it started that way. Like there was a desire to be witnessed in this new version of self. To have the change acknowledged. To feel seen in the light of who they've become rather than who they were. That's a very understandable need. Being seen is one of the most primal human desires. But there's a sense that something is shifting even in that. That the further into this chosen path the person goes, the less it becomes about being watched. The visibility is starting to feel less like a statement and more like just their life. They're not performing quite as consciously as they might have been at the start. And that's a quiet but significant evolution. Some of you are at the beginning of that arc. Still very aware of the watching eyes. Still measuring your choices partly against the imagined reactions of others. That's okay. That's where some journeys start. The question is whether you let it be a temporary scaffold or a permanent structure. I want to speak to those of you who are on the receiving end of someone else's transformation energy in a painful way. Because I feel this very clearly, there are people watching this reading who have been left behind in some sense. Not dramatically. Maybe not even officially. But someone moved forward, chose a different path, started living in a way that no longer includes you in the way it once did. And watching them live loudly and visibly in their new chapter while you're still processing the loss of what you had, or thought you had, is a very specific kind of ache. It's quiet on the outside and loud on the inside. And there's something here about justice. About fairness. About looking at someone who maybe didn't treat you as well as they should have, who may be left without the explanation you deserved, and now watching them seemingly flourish, and feeling the complete dissonance of that. Because it feels wrong. It feels like things should look different if things weren't right between you. But here's what I keep coming back to in this reading. The karmic thread is real. And it may not be moving on your timeline. The consequences, the returns, the reflections, the natural effects of how someone has moved through the world, they're moving. You may not see them clearly. You may only see the beautiful exterior of someone's new life. But the energy that was sent out doesn't disappear. It finds its way back. Maybe not through the door you're watching. Maybe through a window you're not aware of. And more importantly, more urgently, your energy is also moving. Your choices are also creating a path. And I feel very strongly in this reading that some of you have been so focused on watching someone else's story unfold that you've paused your own. You've been the observer for so long that you've forgotten you're also a protagonist. There's more to this than it first appeared. Because the resilience in this reading, that star quality I mentioned earlier, it isn't only about the person who's been in the spotlight. That quality is in you, too. It might just be quieter right now. It might be in the process of being uncovered rather than displayed. And there's something sacred about that process. Growth that happens without an audience is still growth. Healing that no one else witnesses is still healing. Transformation that's private is no less powerful for being unseen. Some of you are in the part of your journey that happens before the visibility. Before people stare. Before it becomes something others notice. And I want you to feel the weight of what that means. You are in the making of something. It's not yet on display. It's still being formed. And that quiet formation stage is actually precious, even when it doesn't feel that way. The energy keeps returning to this idea of chosen paths and natural consequence. Of decisions that were made with intention even if they looked impulsive from the outside. And for whoever needs to hear this, the path you're standing at, the one that maybe feels uncertain or a little frightening, the one that requires you to move in a direction you haven't tried before, that path has been chosen by something in you that knows more than your anxiety does. There's a wisdom in the pull you're feeling. Even if you can't fully justify it yet. Trust what you sense before you can explain it. That has been a theme in this energy throughout. I also want to speak to the duality present here, because this reading has two currents running through it at once. There's the energy of someone who has been transformed by their experiences and is now living in a way that reflects that transformation, sometimes loudly. And there's the energy of the witness, the one watching, the one sensing, the one feeling the reverberations of someone else's choices. And what I find so moving about this particular configuration is that both of these people are on a path of becoming. Neither of them has arrived. The one who looks like they have it figured out is still navigating something. The one watching from the sidelines is actually being pushed toward their own next step. Nobody in this story is simply a bystander. Even stillness is a kind of movement. And here's something I feel very gently nudging its way into this reading. There's a new version of you on the other side of the thing you've been avoiding. Not the other side of someone else's transformation. Your own. And it might not look like what you imagine. It might not be loud. It might not make people stare, at least not right away. But it will be real. And it will be yours. And it will be built on something far more solid than performance or reaction or the desire to be seen by specific eyes. The chosen path in this energy isn't just about the person who seems to be walking it so boldly right now. It's about you, too. The path is available. The direction is opening. Whatever has been happening around you, whatever has felt confusing or unfair or quietly heartbreaking, it has been working on you. Slowly, steadily, at a level you might not have been fully aware of. And something has been refined in that process. Something in you knows more than you did before. Something in you has become clearer, even if it's a clarity that came with a price. That clarity is yours to keep. And the karmic thread, I want to come back to this as we close, because it isn't a threat. It isn't even really a promise of vengeance, though I understand the comfort that would come from believing that. It's simply a recognition that energy doesn't disappear. That how we move through the world creates ripples that eventually return to us. That the quality of what we put into our choices, our intentions, our honesty, our willingness to show up with integrity, that quality matters. Even when no one else is watching. Especially then. You've been watching. You've been noticing. You've been sitting with things that were confusing and maybe painful. And all of that attention, all of that quiet observation, hasn't been wasted. It's been teaching you something. Something about what you value. Something about what you won't settle for anymore. Something about the version of yourself that you're slowly, sometimes painfully, growing into. The staring will quiet. The display will eventually become just a life being lived. And what remains, for you, for them, for everyone in this collective reading, is simply the question of what you built while no one was watching, and whether it's the kind of thing that will last. You're closer than you think. Keep going.